Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. The big story comes from New York at the United Nations General Assembly session. That's the 80th session. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, speaking at the UNGA, claimed that Pakistani fighter jets had taken out 7 Indian jets during Operation Sindoor. Sharif lauded his Air Force, calling the pilots falcons who soared into action and destroyed the Indian aircraft. However, his claims have left him embarrassed, as the reported number of Indian jets downed seems to rise with each of his statements on the India-Pakistan conflict. Pakistan often claimed it had shot down 5, but these assertions have been repeatedly dismissed by India as baseless, with no evidence provided by Pakistan to support the claims. Meanwhile, Shehbaz Sharif was confronted by news agency ANI on cross-border terrorism just before his speech, where he said that his country was defeating cross-border terrorism.
जो ही हिंदुस्तान के जहाजों ने पेलोड उन्होंने रिलीज किया, हमारे उकाब झपटे और आनन फानन 5 जहाज जिनमें 3 राफेल उनको मार कराया और उनको ऊंधे मुंह वो कश्मीर पर जाकर गिरे, बठिंडा में जाके गिरे। 6 मई को दुश्मन ने पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ हमला किया और बेगुनाह पाकिस्तानी शहीद हो गए। पाकिस्तान को अपने दिफा में कार्रवाई करनी पड़ी और एक झटके में दुश्मन के 6 जहाज ज़मींबोस हो गए।
India sought to extract political gains from a human tragedy by spurning my sincere offer of an independent international investigation into the Pahalgam incident. Instead, it attacked our cities and targeted our innocent civilians. Repulsing the enemy's attack under Air Chief Marshal Zahir Babar Sidhu, our falcons took flight and etched their answer across the skies, resulting in 7 of the Indian jets turned to scrap and dust. A decisive response.
From 5 jets to 6 and now 7 at none other than the UNGA platform. And then he was confronted by the ANI journalist. Listen into what he had to say.
Prime Minister Sharif, when are you going to stop cross-border terrorism? When are you going to stop cross-border terrorism, Pakistan Prime Minister?
Cross-border terrorism, we are defeating them.
India is defeating you, Pakistan Prime Minister. Prime Minister Sharif, when are you going to stop cross-border terrorism? When are you going to stop cross-border terrorism, Pakistan Prime Minister?
Cross-border terrorism, we are defeating them.
India is defeating you, Pakistan Prime Minister.
And Pranay Upadhyay, my colleague, joins me for more on this. Pranay, clearly, the Pakistanis don't know the number of jets they've downed. The numbers keep changing and keep increasing.
Obviously, Geeta, when you do not have facts with you, then you take the help of fiction. And this is a figment of fiction because Pakistani never knew. They do not have any evidence to show to the world that they actually shoot down any of the Indian jet. And even if it is there, then they do not have the radar signature. They do not have any evidences. However, the Pakistani Prime Minister, how he exaggerated the claim. But if you see how he used the 26 minutes of his speech on the of the United Nations General Assembly, it was full of anti-India venomous rant. It was full of bragging. It was full of sycophancy because he wanted to show that how Pakistan is actually indebted to President Donald Trump, because recently he had a meeting, an audience of US President Donald Trump, and that too after 6 long years, any Pakistani Prime Minister could get a chance to meet a US President. So clearly, it was away from substance and more of the balancing act. And if you see, he was so praiseful about his own army chief as well from the UN podium.
That's absolutely right, Pranay. And also the fact that he mentioned Trump by name 5 times in a matter of less than 25 minutes. And he referred to President Trump as he or his 3 times over. So 8 times.
Absolutely, and he has the reasons to do that because he thinks that whatever Pakistan is getting right now, this is the time to maximize the partnership with the United States, and that's why he took name of U.S. President Donald Trump. He also reiterated the fact that Pakistan has endorsed U.S. President Donald Trump's name for that for the Nobel Peace Prize. So clearly shows that how he was trying to play a larger role. What Pakistan, you tries to do that. However, he doesn't have that capacity or to deliver because you have mentioned about the Pakistan, the U.S. State Department's Fiscal Transparency Report 2025, which clearly raises serious question about the fiscal management of Pakistan, the fiscal prudence of Pakistan, and especially raises question about the financial management of the Pakistan Army and Pakistan intelligence. But if you see right after 10th of May, if you see all the foreign visit of
Right.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he was always invariably accompanied by Pakistan Army Chief Field Marshal
Absolutely.
Asim Munir.
Absolutely, Pranay Upadhyay. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, why wouldn't the Pakistani premier praise and laud President Donald Trump? For the first time in 6 years, a Pakistani prime minister and then army chief as well were received at the White House by US President Donald Trump. President Trump hosted Prime Minister Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir for a high-stakes meeting covering trade, security, and global challenges. The Oval Office talks marked Sharif's first meeting with an American president and Pakistan's first Oval Office entry since Imran Khan's 2019 visit. But the visit wasn't all roses. Reports suggest that Sharif and Munir were kept waiting for nearly half an hour before the talks began. Still, the meeting underscored a reset between US-Pak ties. Sharif's government has sought to strengthen ties with Washington, and Trump has shown a personal rapport with Pakistan's military leadership. This is a striking shift, considering Trump once accused Islamabad of sheltering terrorists and deceiving the United States of America.
In fact, we have a great leader coming. We have the Prime Minister of Pakistan coming and the Field Marshal. Pakistan Field Marshal is a very great guy, and so is the Prime Minister, both. And they're coming, and they may be in this room right now. I don't know, because we're late. And I said maybe they'd like to join they actually may be somewhere in the beautiful Oval Office. Yeah, please, behind you.
The United States of America will impose a 100% tariff on branded and patented drug imports from October 1st unless companies build plants in America. India's $9 billion pharma exports, including firms like Sun Pharma, Dr. Reddy's, and Cipla, face major impact in times to come. What does this mean for Indian drug makers and US patients? Let's take a look.
US President Donald Trump has once again fired a tariff salvo, this time targeting the pharmaceutical industry. Starting October 1st, all branded and patented drug imports into America will face a 100% tariff unless the company is actively building a manufacturing plant in the United States. While this move is pitched as protecting American jobs and factories, it has sent shockwaves across the global pharma sector, and India, one of the biggest exporters of medicines to the US, is right in the firing line. America is India's largest market for pharmaceuticals. In 2024, India exported nearly $9 billion worth of drugs to the US. That's about 1/3 of its total pharma exports. Indian firms supply over 45% of generics and 15% of biosimilars used in the American healthcare system. In fact, 4 out of every 10 prescriptions filled in the US come from India. So who could be hit the hardest? Companies like Sun Pharma, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Cipla, Aurobindo Pharma, Zydus Life Sciences, and Gland Pharma are among the most exposed. Many of them earn between 30 to 50% of their total revenues from the American market. Already, stock prices of these companies have dipped on tariff fears. The tariffs technically apply only to branded and patented drugs, a segment dominated by multinational giants. But uncertainty looms over whether complex generics and specialty medicines from India might also come under the scanner. If that happens, Indian drug makers who already operate on thin margins in the US could face steep revenue losses, reduced market share, and rising costs that will be hard to absorb. For American consumers, the fallout could mean something else: higher drug prices, shortages, and inflation in healthcare costs. Indian generics saved the US healthcare system over $200 billion in 2022 alone. And over the next 5 years, they are expected to save more than $1.3 trillion. Trump's tariff blitz puts those savings at risk. Critics warn the policy could backfire by worsening inflation and curbing business investment. But Trump remains defiant, insisting tariffs are the only way to push foreign companies to build in America. For India's pharma industry, October 1st is a red-letter date. The coming weeks will reveal whether Washington expands the scope of these tariffs and whether Indian drug makers can weather this latest storm. With Jyoti Shukla, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Karishma Sudani joins me for more on this. Karishma, what's really happening? The talks are still underway when it comes to India and US. And on the other hand, we're looking at these stringent measures coming in from the Trump administration.
Yeah, it's very important to understand that until the executive order is rolled out and there is a detailed explanation of understanding the scope of this announcement, definitely the pharma industry stays in a limbo because there is a lot of confusion and we don't want to get back to what really happened during the last weekend with the H-1B announcement. The term branded and patent could have multiple connotations and understanding depending on what is the US government trying to hint at. Just to clarify to our viewers, branded is more like a patent-oriented drug, while generic, which ideally India majorly exports, is a version of a patent drug that is used after the patent is expired and is more economically available. If we go by numbers, Geeta, then there is a reason that India is called the pharma of the world, the pharma country of the world, and that is because we export about close to $30 billion of generic drugs across the globe, and about close to $9 billion from that goes just to the United States of America. So more than India's loss, this is going to be a loss to the American healthcare system, which is highly dependent on its import. They almost import close to about $220 billion of drugs, and from that about 10 goes to India, which is just the generic coming at a cheaper rate. So it's very important that the order rolled out could give some clarifications in the few days, which also the India's Commerce Ministry is keenly watching out for.
Right, Karishma. It could affect Americans more than Indian businesses over here. Thank you so much for joining us on the network. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered his address at the United Nations General Assembly. Even as scores of delegates walked out of the hall before he began speaking. He recalled Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel, in which Netanyahu said some 1,200 people were killed.
The UN General Assembly witnessed high drama on day 4th. As Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's name was announced, delegates from several nations staged a walkout. While a few applauded, the majority walked out was a clear message to Netanyahu. His address came as global pressure mounts on Israel to end the Gaza war and its occupation of the West Bank. Netanyahu delivered a lengthy attack on Hamas and leaders who criticized him for the Gaza genocide.
My words are now also being carried. They're streamed live to the cell phones of Gazans. So to the remaining Hamas leaders and to the jailers of our hostages, I now say, lay down your arms. Let my people go. Free the hostages. All of them, the whole 48, free the hostages now.
He also praised his ally, US President Donald Trump, for backing Israel in its conflict with Iran.
Israeli fighter pilots and American B-2 pilots bombed Iran's nuclear enrichment sites. I want to thank President Trump for his bold and decisive action. President Trump and I promised to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons, and we delivered on that promise.
Netanyahu also criticized Western leaders, recognizing a Palestinian state, asserting Israel will not commit national suicide.
So here's another message to those Western leaders. Israel will not allow you to shove a terror state down our throats. We will not commit national suicide because you don't have the guts to face down a hostile media and anti-Semitic mobs demanding Israel's blood.
He emphasized that Israel's Gaza and West Bank policies reflect the government and the majority of Israelis, not just an extreme prime minister. Earlier, US President Trump signaled he would not permit annexation of the territory.
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this directly?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now, okay?
With Trump claiming a Gaza ceasefire is nearly finalized and Netanyahu vowing to not back down, the question remains, will the Gaza war truly end? With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
Prime Minister Netanyahu said there will be no state of Palestine, referring to terrorism and Hamas. But the starving of Gaza and the blockade is not a new phenomenon. It is certainly not a post-October 7 phenomenon as well. Why were there flotillas, blockades, restrictions on Gaza before October 7, 2023? We'll tell you in Statecraft. You can watch the full episode on India Today Global's YouTube channel. For now, here is an excerpt.
If there are Gazans who don't have enough food, it's because Hamas is stealing it. Israel will not allow you to shove a terror state down our throats.
Gaza is being starved again, but now the hunger feels endless, merciless. In 2025, a famine officially grips the Strip. Mothers skipping meals so their children might live. Infants wasting away in darkened hospitals with no power, no medicine, no clean water. Food convoys are turned back, eateries empty, and airstrikes have shredded the little that remains of supply chains. Yet this nightmare is not new. It is the culmination of decades of closures and temporary restrictions turned into a permanent chokehold. And for nearly 2 decades, courageous flotillas have tried to pierce the blockade. From the first Free Gaza boats in 2008 to the massive 2025 Global Sumud Flotilla. So how did Gaza go from becoming the world's largest open-air prison to becoming a place facing total siege, famine, and near-complete isolation? And Netanyahu determined that this suffering will not end until Palestine itself is erased. Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. To understand today's catastrophe, we have to rewind. Since Britain's mandate and the Balfour Declaration, every solution has widened the fault lines between Israelis and Palestinians. The 1948 Nakba displaced 700,000 Palestinians. The 1967 war added Gaza to the map of occupation. Oslo promised relief, but instead institutionalized closures. By the early 1990s, Israel had already imposed hundreds of days of shutdowns, strangling Gaza's economy. Each round of security measures created deeper dependency, higher unemployment, and tighter control. Is it any wonder that by 2025, after Hamas's rise and Netanyahu's vows to block Palestinian statehood, Gaza is literally starving under total siege? Gaza's current famine is not a sudden disaster, but the end point of decades of calculated restriction. In the early 1990s, Israel cancelled general exit permits, dismantled free movement, and introduced closures that became a way of life. Goods, workers, and students were trapped behind a barrier built in 1994. GDP crashed. Families who once relied on Israeli markets were cut off overnight. Each time violence flared, the restrictions hardened. What began as temporary security measures became an economic and social chokehold, proof that starvation by bureaucracy can be as devastating as starvation by bombs. After Hamas's October 2023 attack killed over 1,200 Israelis and took hostages, Israel imposed a total blockade. No food, no water, no fuel, no medicine. Partial easing followed, but was erratic and insufficient. The result is a catastrophe without precedent. The Integrated Food Security Phase classification declares Gaza in IPC Phase 5, famine. Over 1 million people are in emergency conditions, nearly 400,000 in crisis. An estimated 132,000 children under 5 will suffer acute malnutrition by mid-2026, including 41,000 severe cases at high risk of death. Every statistic underscores one fact: things are worse than ever. Previous blockades choked Gaza's economy. This one chokes life itself. Where earlier rounds allowed limited humanitarian imports, today even baby formula and medical supplies are hostage to security lists. Where earlier wars leveled homes, today entire food networks are bombed. Netanyahu's refusal to countenance a Palestinian state translates into a policy that makes Gaza unlivable. The question now is not whether Gaza can survive this round, but whether anything called Palestine can survive at all. That's all in this edition of India Today Global. Stay tuned to India Today for all the latest news and updates. Goodbye and take care.